This week we will be covering some advanced anxiety and stress management tips and techniques. I'll mainly be covering the 4 types of stress, so it may be helpful for you to go to my stress video to better understand what they are. In my stress video, I covered 4 types of stress: time stress, anticipatory stress, situational stress, and encounter stress. There are techniques that can help you deal with each one of these specific kinds of stresses. For time stress, to-do lists work amazingly well. People who suffer this kind of stress tend to overwork themselves, so another big suggestion is to practice saying no to things you can't do. This is actually an important life skill in itself. The last tip for time stress is Eisenhower's urgent important matrix. Basically, he organizes tasks into urgent, important, not urgent, and not important. Important tasks are those which have outcomes that lead us to achieving our goals, personal or professional. Urgent activities are those that demand our immediate attention and are usually associated with somebody else's goals. Work deadlines, for example, are urgent activities. Now that you have a gist of the matrix, you should try to use it to categorize items and tasks in your life. It is suggested that you should follow this order for completing tasks. Do important and urgent activities first. Second, do important but not urgent. Third, not important but urgent. Lastly, you should do those activities that are neither important nor urgent. Feel free to comment your own matrix so that others who may not understand the matrix can better understand it. Anticipatory stress is caused by future-based dreading. Some techniques that help with this are positive visualization and meditation. Anticipatory stress is usually due to fear of failure. Because of this, contingency plans help with it. You're afraid of failing at something? Ask yourself what you can do afterwards. Maybe you're afraid your boss is about to fire you. If that's the case, what can you do to prepare yourself if that does happen? Plan accordingly. This kind of stress borderlines on anxiety, so I think it would be better to ask yourself what evidence you have for your stress first. Sometimes our dreading isn't based in reality, but just an irrational fear. If you decide that is likely to happen after looking at the evidence, then draw up a contingency plan. Situational stress is best dealt with through self-awareness. Recognize what situation causes your stress. Take a look at the signals you are getting physically and emotionally when you are stressed. Maybe a boss yells at you and your immediate reaction is to yell back, or perhaps you freeze. Instead, while in those situations, do a body scan and see what you feel an impulse to do. Knowing what you do automatically helps you adjust your behavior, especially if you pause before you do whatever impulse it is. Also, situational stress is usually due to conflict, so conflict resolution skills also help. The last type of stress is encounter stress, which deals with people. Developing greater emotional intelligence can help with this. Try recognizing the wants and needs of yourself and others. Deep breathing exercise will also help for those suffering from compassion fatigue. One last technique I would like to cover can be called following to completion. When we are stressed or anxious, we tend to stop at the worst part of the image or thought. For example, test anxiety is faced by a lot of students. The image typically looks like this. They hear the word test and they feel incredibly anxious. They may imagine walking to the classroom and they see the test and they freeze. They can't answer the first question. This is usually where the image stops. Can you imagine the stress and anxiety this person must feel at that moment? Possibly this is you. Something really wonderful can happen if you ask yourself the simple question, what happens next? Remember, you can ask yourself this question too. So maybe the person is stuck for 5 minutes, but eventually they decide to move on to the next question until they find one they can answer. But they still don't feel confident. Well, what happens next? After 30 minutes, they have half the test done, but they're still stuck. What happens next? After about 45 minutes, they turn their test in. They had to guess on 10 answers, but still completed it. What happens next? They leave the classroom, and this could continue on after that if need be. Can you see how the level of anxiety would differ from someone who's stuck on the image of not being able to answer the first question to the image of leaving the classroom? That's how this technique works. More or less, you continue until you feel the relief or until you reach an imagined catastrophe like dying. If this is the case, see a counselor. Preferably one who's based in cognitive behavioral therapy. They'll help you look at your underlying beliefs behind this. Today I covered some advanced strategies for managing anxiety and stress. Let me know in the comments what you think of these techniques. Thanks for watching and do me a favor and have a good day.